Three, two, one.
Here we go!
Hi there, and welcome to the CEO Talk, a place to discover new entrepreneurs, gain tips from business gurus, and learn the ins and outs of business from CEOs themselves. I'm your host, Selene Dior, and today we will be chatting with Jake. Jake is the co-founder of Treet, and Treet was founded in 2021 in San Francisco by Jake and his co-founder, Sonia Yang. Okay, prior to starting Treet, Jake was working at Indiegogo as the director of sales. He eventually left this position to start his own men's fashion line that incorporated some of the new models that have become so popular today, such as resale, rental, trade back, etc. While creating this business, he ran into difficulty with the tech solutions. After speaking to his now co-founder, Sonia, who is an engineer, they realized there may be more brands out there who would like to implement this model into their business. So welcome onto the podcast, Jake. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Selene. Yeah, really happy to be here. Excited to chat.
So I actually was looking for the solution to implement for my brand, and I did a little bit of research, and I also posted on the Shopify Plus community in the Facebook group, and a few people recommended Treet, and I looked into it. I went to your website. It was exactly what I was looking for. We wanted a platform for our customers to resell their either used or unused fitness apparel on our website. And for them to make it easier, we want to offer them a solution, which is to include a little bit of customer service and then also help them handle logistics, which is shipping out the product, which is a huge pain into, I think, why we have a Facebook group for reselling and it's not really doing anything. I think it's because people are like, I don't want to go to Canada Post or UPS, drop it off, whatever. So yeah, your software and Treet was exactly what we were looking for. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a similar story nowadays for a lot of brands that are hoping to provide a channel, like a streamlined, safe channel for their customers to resell their items, and for also the brands to bring customers back into the fold and also participate in those sales financially, keep items out of the landfill to be more sustainable, and to actually get more like incremental revenue from those purchases. Nowadays items are being sold obviously the first time, but certainly the second, third, and fourth time. And I think it's becoming very exciting that brands are waking up to the possibility that they can now participate and foster that resale community and help own it.
Yeah, for sure. So let's start with a little icebreaker question. Do you have a morning routine? Can you tell us about it?
My morning routine, let's see, I wake up at 6:11. I'm always weird about waking up at weird times. I have to think about even numbers. So 6:11. I usually start by doing some sort of physical activity. And so lately it's been just like a 20 or 25 minute Peloton class, not on the bike. I do like the more of like the HIIT cardio sort of classes.
Yeah.
And then I have like a pretty monster smoothie. I've been drinking almost the same smoothie for the past few years.
What is it? What's the recipe?
Well, I have a vegan protein that I use with chia seeds, peanut butter powder. Let's see, a banana, 4 types of berries that are like organic berries, and we've been lately making our own oat milk. Oat and coconut milk. We bought something called an almond cow to help us make oat milk. It's so incredibly easy. It takes like 1 minute to make your own oat milk at home.
Really?
Yeah, and we add spinach on top of that. So that's my monster smoothie.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think that the oat milk piece is an interesting tip too for anyone that is drinking oat milk, coconut milk, all of these alternative milks. It's so easy to make your own at home. It's literally oats and water, and you can add some maple syrup or some vanilla, maybe some salt, and it is incredible.
That's crazy. I drink oat milk too, and I think I've seen a video somewhere where you kind of just like squeeze the water juice out. So yeah, I should try it.
Yeah, absolutely. Highly recommend. And after the smoothie, if I'm feeling especially, I don't know, grateful, I'll do a little meditation. So I use the Calm app for just like the daily Calm. And I make my mushroom coffee. So I usually I do a pour over with my Four Sigmatic mushroom coffee. It's actually what I'm drinking right now, this WeWork cup. And I take Barden to work, and here I am at our WeWork today.
Nice. I've tried Four Sigmatic before. Their matcha one. It was really good.
Yeah. It's surprisingly tasty. I think people sometimes are turned off by the fact that it's mushroom coffee, but it really is just like regular coffee infused with mushroom and chaga and things like that.
Yeah. Cool. If you can learn one skill today, what would it be?
One skill. Is it any type of skill from
Any type of
business
skill.
to I think I've attempted to learn Spanish a million times. And I've been on Duolingo 1,000 times. So yeah, I think becoming fluent in Spanish. My fiance's family, half of them are from Mexico as well, and being able to travel throughout Mexico and Latin America and speak fluent Spanish, I think would be a great skill. I also grew up in San Diego, so it's especially shameful that I don't yet speak Spanish.
Yeah, I remember I learned Spanish for a year and then obviously never used it. Right out the window. I only know the basics now.
Yeah. It's funny. It is kind of like if you don't use it, you lose it. And similarly, I studied in Barcelona in college, and I think that was my peak of my Spanish. I did speak some Spanish there, but it has completely fallen away.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely want to bring that back.
Cool. So I asked this for every guest on my podcast. We want to inspire people to start their own business, talk about the journey. So I'm curious how you got into entrepreneurship and if you could share a little bit about your story and your background.
Sure. Yeah. So I got into entrepreneurship in college, and actually it was more just by I didn't know what else I wanted to do. In my college, I entered the business program at our university, and we had to choose a concentration. And I wasn't really interested in being very specific with like if I just wanted to do finance or just accounting or just marketing. And it was kind of just like decision paralysis. And I decided to do entrepreneurship initially just because it was going to be my like broadest category and give me visibility into all the different intersections of business. I thought, hey, if I don't really know what I want to do right now, I might as well do something that gives me the most um, uh, opportunity to do anything later on. And so I kind of stumbled into it. And then I really fell in love with it. Like I love the entrepreneurship program, the projects that we were doing. I ended up working at several startups, even starting my own companies out of college. And I was running the entrepreneurship programs at the university post college.
Wow.
And so I really got started. This was probably about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years, 12 years ago. And since then, I've really stayed in the startup world. So both with starting my own little side projects and businesses on Shopify. Most recently, as you mentioned, I was at Indiegogo running the launch and sales team. And that was amazing just in terms of working with so many entrepreneurs and startups and helping them launch their businesses on our platform. And so it's really been for a while since college. And also my other love started in college, which was just my love for sustainability and the environment, specifically the outdoors. So growing up, I wasn't a big outdoors person. I was into sports and music, and complained when our parents took us on hikes. Flash forward to university, we went to a school called Cal Poly San Luis Obispo on the central coast of California. And it was nestled in between some amazing mountains and close to the ocean. And so we would go hiking every weekend on the weekdays. It was what we did. And I loved it so much that I ended up studying environmental studies alongside entrepreneurship and tried to take that path throughout a lot of the projects that I've done to incorporate sustainability through items that can be recycled or recycled afterwards. And that really brings us to present day with Treet, which is my love for startups and helping businesses be more sustainable. And that's really our goal at the end of the day, is to help every brand that can keep their items out of landfill, be more sustainable, make sure every item that can be resold is resold, to help reduce the global footprint of the fashion industry.
For Treat, are most of the clients right now in the apparel space, or do you have other clients as well?
Yeah, we primarily work in apparel and apparel accessories, and that includes bags and footwear. We are expanding into other categories, and we're talking to folks in the jewelry space, in the watches space, and really anything that you can imagine has a resale market that can be easily bought and sold through peer to peer. And so really it's about the size of the item. And so
Right.
as you can imagine, a peer-to-peer resale platform for a furniture company that sells beds and armoires and things like that probably wouldn't be the best fit today.
Yeah. So from idea stage to launching the company, how long did it take you, and what was that journey like?
Yeah, I think it depends if we include the first idea, which was my menswear brand, which I think I probably would. That's all part of the path for getting to Treat. And so we spent about, and I say we, but it was really me in the beginning, like 3 or 4 months trying to build that business before the idea for Treat came about, which was like the much bigger opportunity for us to be the platform to enable any apparel brand to do what I was trying to do. And then Sonia and I spent probably 4 months ideating and talking to brands. And so
Mhm.
that was really like our market research phase where we were doing customer discovery. We were just doing cold outreach to every brand we can think of and say, basically, like, can you spend 20 minutes with us on the phone? Would love your feedback on what we're building. We'd show them screenshots. We'd get a feel for, all right, if this were to exist, how would it, where would it need to live on your site? What are like the most important factors in terms of features? And really just starting to understand, is this a viable business? What's their
Mhm.
likelihood for them to actually want to pay us for this thing if we built it? And we ended up getting enough letters of intent signed, which are basically like a non-binding agreement that says, hey, if you build this, I will use it. We got
Yeah.
some great brands to sign that, and we used that to get into Techstars in January 2021. And that's when we really launched the business. We incorporated and we quickly built an MVP product and launched our first brands like 2.5 months after that.
Wow. That's really fast. 2.5 months. Is Sonia your engineer?
She is, yeah. She's our amazing CTO and full stack engineer. She came from the growth team at Airbnb,
Oh, wow.
and also a very much like a secondhand shopper and an avid sustainability advocate. And just has been an amazing pairing. She came from this world of like the Airbnb marketplace and
Yeah.
grown that marketplace, which is also peer to peer in a way. And so she took that expertise from an engineering standpoint. I took mine from an Indiegogo marketplace standpoint from a business and sales. And so really, it's been a really nice partnership and a divide from like everything product to everything business.
Yeah. When you started your men's fashion brand, you obviously didn't have the solution. So how did you do it?
So we never really got off the ground. I was running validation studies through basically building fancy landing pages,
Right.
pretending like I had this, and we were running advertising studies to say, hey, what's the propensity for someone to buy into this model?
Mhm.
And we were also talking to lots of manufacturers and textile recyclers to understand. Because really, the idea was, let's build a model where we're selling sustainable clothing that's 100% organic, like all certified, et cetera. And then we want to buy back those items when they're end of life and respin them into new yarns and new fabrics and into new clothing. And that was the idea. It turns out it's really hard, really expensive, and it takes a lot
Yeah.
of quantity to actually do that. And there are very few great textile manufacturers that you can partnership to make that happen.
Yeah.
And we were also looking at resale models. Okay, if we weren't going to do that, is there another way that we can build circularity into the company from the beginning? And it really was just a bunch of Google searching to try to find, all right, what are the available solutions out there that can help us do that? And through that research, I really just went into a hole. Just like I kept digging into a deeper resale hole and which was just fascinating, understanding the growth in resale. Resale is growing 11 times faster than retail. It's going
Yeah.
to 2x fast fashion in the next 5 years. Just seeing this amazing growth in resale and not a lot of ways for brands other than the Patagonias and Lululemons of the world to participate in resale that was the aha moment, which was, okay, brands are going to want to own this market. They're going to want to participate and be more sustainable in this way. And so that was really the mindset shift to pivot us into what became Treet.
Yeah, I resonate with you with the having very limited manufacturer and just technology in general and resources to make fabric out of recycled material. We last year launched our first sustainable collection made out of recycled nylon, and it was a huge process, took over a year designing and making sure that everything fits right because like the feel and fit is different, and just finding someone that is reputable enough to have
Mm-hmm.
the right certificate and complies with everything was really difficult.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And I think it's even more difficult for smaller brands because it's more expensive and then you have to charge more. You
Yeah.
are purchasing the quantities that make sense from a cost perspective, at least just in terms of margins, you have to charge more. And then ideally, I mean, the ideal use case is if you're charging more, you can make up some of that cost in the resale market.
Mhm.
And exactly what you're going through is kind of what we're talking about with brands that are trying to be more sustainable. They want to change their materials and introduce these lines.
Yeah.
And they are, and they're going through the like trials and tribulations to do that. But it's taking a long time, and it could take a year. Like you say, it could take a year to come out with a new line. And in that time, you could also launch another like sustain. There's all these other sort of sustainability pieces that you can add to your business
Mhm.
beyond sustainable fabrics. I think it all like becoming more sustainable from a fabrics perspective is probably the most important and the hardest. But in the
Yeah.
meantime, you can do other things like resale, supply chain, changing your packaging,
Yeah.
carbon offset, all this other stuff that is nice to add on while people are working on the fabrics themselves.
Yeah, totally. Our costs for those were at least 2 to 3x more comparing to our regular. And you're
Wow.
totally right. The minimum order quantity had to make sense, which was why it took so long. And yeah, through that time, we were looking. We started like a resale group, and then we also like launched zero waste packaging through that year. So yeah, definitely
Yeah,
lots of brands have many steps that they can take before even getting to that point because switching your entire product collection lines material is really difficult and definitely lots of, I mean, even just money and time to get there.
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it can take forever.
Cool. So what do you think is contributing to the growth of the resale market?
Just yeah, I mean, well, if we look at just resale overall, I think it's a bunch of different things. I think it's important to know like where the growth is happening most, which is pretty clear to most people now, which is largely Gen Z and millennials shortly after. But and if we put ourselves in the shoes of a Gen Z or shopping resale, you can really deduce why it makes sense for them. It's really they've been coined like the Instagram generation, right? Also wanting a rotating wardrobe, like lots of fashion is important, and wearing clothes that identify with your values and your culture and who you are, and it's a freedom of expression. It's important, and with literally Instagram, you're being photographed in clothes all the time, and so you ideally want to have like a rotation of clothes, and so resale provides a path for those shoppers and more. But if we were just talking about Gen Z first, to find clothes at affordable prices first and foremost, like discounted prices, right? These items can be over 50% off from MSRP, and in a way that is more sustainable. So the Gen Z generation is also the most like conscious and trying to shop in ways that are more sustainable as well. And so this is like their way of having their cake and eating it too. Uh, Being more sustainable, having lots of clothes at an affordable price. And then you also have the technology that's enabling that. And so really we're the benefactors of the platforms that launched 10 plus years ago, like the ThreadUps of the world, even the eBays and Poshmarks and things like that, that created the tech infrastructure to make this possible. And so you have the software and online shopping and e-commerce side of this. And then you have the cultural standpoints of being more sustainable, having needing lots of clothes and being able to do it affordably, and that's what's really pushing the rush in resale overall.
Yeah, I know that a lot of vintage rework clothing brands have, I think, blew up in the past 2 3 years. I think more people are definitely even just going in store to thrift stores and thrift clothing. And here in Vancouver, we have Value Village, and that's pretty much like the only place I always shop at. And like you can just find such good finds there. Things that are like barely worn, retail price over 100, you get it for 20. It's just crazy. And I
It's
definitely see,
insane, yeah.
the market moving towards that way. And yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on fast fashion like companies, apparel brands. There's a few very big ones currently that are trending, and people buy from them because it's on trend, the fashion is on point, also the price point is really really
Yeah.
cheap, but the quality is just not there. You wear it 2-3 times, it's like it's done. Yeah, I'm curious to see what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, well, my thoughts are it's not ideal, right, for this practice to exist. And it's unfortunate that it actually has a lot of overlap with the same reasons why resale is blowing up, which are the same reasons why fast fashion is still blowing up, which is affordability, rotating wardrobe, etc. And it's an interesting dichotomy because the Gen Z generation is also fueling fast fashion at the same time they're fueling resale. And so I
Yeah.
don't have a really good a reason for it. I think it's maybe Gen Z is like justifying their fast fashion choices by also simultaneously shopping resale.
Mhm.
Ideally, even the fast fashion brands are going to have to wake up to more sustainable practices. And I think the reason why brands nowadays are adopting sustainability, I'd like to think it's out of their goodness of their hearts. But a lot of it is being driven by consumers and conscious consumerism and consumers demanding that brands be more sustainable. And
Right.
so I don't suspect this slowing down ever in terms of customers like voting with their wallets and being very vocal. And so I think uh, the more comes out about the woes of fast fashion and the issues with it, and the more data that we can educate consumers about how devastating it can be, the more customers will demand these companies to change in significant ways. Um, and even fast fashion brands, even though they might have an item that deteriorates over time, they still need to be responsible for what happens to that item afterwards. And I think with fashion legislation that's just starting to come out in the U.S., there's it's promising to believe that we will eventually, hopefully, hold brands accountable for end of life, and brands will start considering end of life in manufacturing their items and providing paths for their customers to either easily resell items that can be resold or recycle those items responsibly or upcycle them. And so that is my hope and prayer for the fashion industry,
Yeah.
especially with fast fashion fueling a lot of this.
Um, I will say though, when we came out with our sustainability line, the price point was way higher for our MSRP to obviously cover
Yeah,
our costs, and margins have to make sense. And our customers weren't really like prepared for the increase in price point. And I think we could have done a much better job like educating more and more, but that is the first step. And I actually relaunched it at a lower price point where we still make margins. And yeah, I also hope that people see and understand that, sustainability is here to stay. And if we don't do something about it now, the consequences in the future are going to be worse. And there's so much landfill waste from not just fashion, just anything. And yeah, I definitely think that resale is a very good sustainability market for people that like can't afford the new sustainable clothing.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think that the discount piece is huge, and in an ideal world, brands that are charging more are able to make up margin again when those items are resold. Or the other idea is, could you charge less for those items, knowing that a certain percentage of them are going to come back into the resale market now, and actually being able to participate in those sales as well. I think it's too early to really tell. We've been in business a little over a year. We now power over 40 brands, but it's still about a year's worth of data. It's not enough to really show the long term revenue impact that resale can bring. But that is our goal: is like, can we show brands that they can expect a reasonable return in their resale market? and also encourage them to produce less. I think the goal with resale is to encourage brands to produce less stuff, less new stuff, which is a really tough argument without data, and that's our current charge right now, is to be the bringer of that data, if you will.
Right. Do you guys have any competitors out there?
We have now probably several companies that are participating in helping brands own their resale market. There's a number of like different models out there. Ours is unique, but we're also like, the idea of helping brands with resale wasn't novel. There's a brand, a great company called Trove that has existed for like 8 or 9 years. They launched Patagonia's wornwear program and worked with Arc'teryx, and they launched the Lululemon's program. Their model is a managed resale model. So they take on the inventory, and they oftentimes they clean it. They can fix it, especially like they have great folks that can actually fix like zippers and are more mechanical fixes with Patagonia outdoor items and things like that. And so they've existed for a while. And honestly, I was pretty inspired by what they were doing with Patagonia and trying to do that with Treet. I think the secret's out that brands want to participate in resale. When we started, we didn't really know for sure what the appetite was going to be. Last year, it became very, very clear that it's time for brands to start owning resale. And so anytime there's a big opportunity like that, and it's very visible and PR is talking about it, there's going to be other players that are going to join this race, and including incumbents. Like ThreadUp is now doing stuff with brands, and so it's no longer a secret, that the future of resale, or at least a piece of the future of resale, is helping the brands do the resale program. And I think it's really smart. Business of Fashion came out with an article or a research study recently that found that only 5 to 7% of resellable fashion is being resold, which is pretty wild. So there's like 95% of items that can be resold are just either sitting in closets or ending up in landfill. And so the goal with Treet and with resale is to make sure that every item that can be resold is resold. And going through the brands is an amazing way to open up resale for anyone that wants to participate. A lot of the customers that are shopping through Treet sites are selling items for the first time ever, because as you can imagine, the brands are telling them to. They're getting emails and say, hey, hope you're loving your item. If at any point in time you're not, you can sell it through our official branded resale program, and maybe you get credit towards your next item. And so by making it so easy, our mission is like making secondhand feel firsthand for brands and customers. And that's what it's about, is helping open up access to make it so easy, like a very easy decision for someone to sell an item or to buy a secondhand item. And that's what we're really in the business of.
Yeah. And I originally was looking because it's also a great way for customer retention and building that community. We have a really strong community, and people always want to continue to support for our new collection drop and whatnot. And like you said, rotate their wardrobe. For us, it's people that want to feel motivated to go to the gym, and that plays a big part in them feeling confident and having that motivation. And for us, through Treet, I understand that people can trade for store credit again or get the cash for what they sold for, right?
Correct. Yeah. And so, customer loyalty is so linked to resale. If I was going to break it down into its simplest terms of why brands are interested in resale, it's like sustainability and circularity on one side, customer loyalty and LTV on the other. And when folks are selling their apparel through Treet, most of the time they're choosing credit actually back to the brand and finding another item to shop with the brand. So it really is a way just to re-engage their customers in an authentic, added value way.
Right.
Keep them back in the fold. The other corny thing we say, I don't know if I mentioned this to you on our call previously, which is like, it's about keeping products in circulation and keeping customers in circulation. And if I was to extend this metaphor, it'd be like, and then adding new customers to that circle. So like finding new customers that haven't shopped the brand before, adding them to the circle. And it's all about circles at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious, how big is your team right now?
We are 12 people strong.
That's crazy. And you guys also help with customer service for the brands if between the sellers, there's any disputes, issues, and whatnot, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really important piece of our business is taking on 100% of the customer support. So brands don't have to build that muscle internally or like train their support team or get bogged down with those sorts of questions that honestly they're not prepared to answer. And so the idea is we have a separate chat that goes directly to our team. We handle all those questions. And that's really the way that we're able to work with oftentimes really small teams, like 2-person companies that are doing amazing things all the way up to 300, 400, 500 person teams. But that
Right.
value proposition is the same where we are handling that side of the business and managing it so they don't have to.
Yeah. I'm curious what your team structure is like. You guys just started, a little over a year ago, and you've grown your
Yeah.
team so much, and you guys have so many brands on your roster. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so it was Sony and I for a while. And then it's literally just been about taking off hats. We were wearing every hat, so to speak. And so it's really about like slowly but surely taking off hats on our head and putting them on other people's head. And so we started with hiring 2 more full stack engineers, both named Annie. So we have the Annies. We have an all female tech team, which is pretty cool, especially because most of our brands are female brands. And actually, a majority of our brands are also female owned,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. So we have our engineering org, and we hired a designer as well, and then we have sales, customer success, and marketing that all fall under me, and of course support as well. Yeah.
Did you find growing the team, was there any challenges, difficulties?
Oh yeah, I think recruiting and finding the right people is one of the hardest and most important roles that I have,
Yeah.
and that Sonia has. I mean, just in our respective leadership roles, and finding the right talent to join an early stage company to believe in our vision and to not take a job at Google that might be 3x
Right.
the salary, and to find those types of people, it's really important and critical. And I think we've been so fortunate and lucky to find amazing people that really believe in our vision and that identify with our mission and are just talented in their own right in their positions. I think as we grow, it'll continue to be harder and harder to find people that are a really great cultural fit, and of course, talented at their roles. But we're always looking. I mean, we're hiring right now in sales roles and engineering roles. And so, yeah, if anybody's listening to this podcast and wants to join the secondhand movement, always happy to chat.
Cool. Um, to wrap up the podcast, a few more fun questions. What is the most effective method or some of the things that you've done to motivate your team when things are hard and whatnot? I think for me, the last year of our growth was scaling our team a
Mm.
lot, almost double it, and I've learned a lot in people managing. And I've never been a manager in any leadership role, so that was a huge learning curve for me. So I think a lot of other people, when they're expanding their business, they might not have the leadership or management experience. So yeah, what are some of
Yeah.
your
I mean, I think it's especially hard today being a manager in the world that we live in with remote work and in-person work. And how do you manage a remote team and an in-person team simultaneously? We are still trying to figure that out. We have most of our team is in San Francisco, but we also have some people in LA, Chicago, and New York. And so part of the biggest challenge is how do we keep everyone motivated across the board? And I think the first step is just being very communicative and making sure that especially the remote folks are involved in every meeting that we have. Also, meetings that are not dedicated to work. Once every other week now, we have some sort of meeting that's like a fun meeting, and so we play virtual games. We're starting to do biweekly lunch and learns too, where everyone from the team is coming to the plate with some sort of skill. Our next one is one of our sales reps is really into cars, and so he's doing a whole presentation on the future of the automotive industry, which
Oh
has
wow.
nothing to do with fashion, actually, except for the piece that he's talking about, like climate change and
Right.
cars. And then the last thing that we do is we still put a value on in person, and if companies can do it, I do recommend having one or two times a year where you all get together and do some work related and some just like bonding and getting to know each other and those sorts of things. We've done our first retreat, if you will. We're all about puns. We put the word treat into everything because we can. So we did a we did a retreat, and half of it was just vision setting and brainstorming. But we also had meditation sessions. We did a like a tree climb adventure, like a treetop adventure, where we went like ziplining and that was a lot of fun. And I think it's the one of the biggest uh, cultural values that we try to instill is that like having fun should not be reserved for being out of work. Like you should be your full self at work, and and if you're spending 90% of your life at your job, let's try to do it with people that we enjoy doing it with, and as much as possible, let's actually have a good time doing it.
Totally.
And that's what we hope will keep people at Treat, keep them enjoying their jobs, and then also doing their best work. If they're really happy here and they're actually enjoying themselves as much as you can at a job, that will be able to keep them for the long term.
Yeah, we're actually planning our year-end corporate retreat as well. We're
Oh,
going.
yeah?
I'm in Vancouver, so we're going to like the Sunshine Coast, the island, and doing the same type of thing, like workshop, meditation, adventures, and all that.
Oh, there's nothing better. It is so
No.
fun just to get out of the work
Yeah,
environment and into a new setting. Is so important. If you can do it outside, even better.
yeah. What's the book or podcast that you're listening to right now?
Um, well, let's see. Um, man, I am a religious daily listener, and so I get my daily news from the Daily.
Uh-huh.
And a book that I'm reading. Let's see. What is it called? I'm a big Kindle guy. And because of that, I never know what I'm reading. I'm reading a book called The Lincoln Highway, which is just a really good story about a group of kids just kind of on an adventure in the 50s. It's a great story. Honestly, I am not as traditional of a like CEO business reading type of person. I do a bit of that, and I love recommendations on like top self books and business books and psychology, and I've done like all the Malcolm Gladwell stuff. But
Yeah,
I just love reading stories at night,
yeah,
honestly, to get my mind out of the business world
yeah,
and into something more creative and stimulating. And so I use a lot of my reading time just for stories, interesting novels, and I read sci-fi and things like that.
yeah. I love that. All right, last question. What's a piece of advice you would give to someone that's starting a business or any entrepreneur?
I think this kind of circles back to something I mentioned earlier, which is the 4 months that we spent not building anything, just talking to customers, was our most valuable 4 months of this business, which was sell before you build.
Mm,
Sell the thing before you build the thing. And we have taken that to heart throughout our entire business. We are not investing engineering resources and things until we have conviction that a feature or a product or a new line of business is actually going to be viable and to work. And so we are cautious before we spend weeks building anything. And that's what we did in advance of building Treat. That's probably like the biggest example is we had a bunch of screenshots, we gathered feedback, we even gathered signatures in a contract that says, hey, if we build this, we'll use this. And so taking it, flash forward till today, when we're building features, like we just launched our Treat shop, like treat.shop, which is a collection of all of our brands. And it took us maybe 3 days to build out this V0 experience. And now we're
mhm.
testing, we're gathering data on, okay, when people are going here, how are they shopping across brands? We have a laundry list of features that we want to build to amplify this experience, but we're not going to build them until we're sure that there's genuine interest from customers for this sort of thing and also what to build next. And so we're taking a very data driven approach for our future development.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. Thank you so much for being on the CEO podcast. And if people want to contact you, connect with you, how can they find you?
Yeah. Our website is just treat.co, treet.co, not .com. .com is too expensive. And you can also reach out to me personally just at Jake at treat.co. or find me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect.
Awesome. I will also link it in the description below. And thank you so much for being here.
You're so welcome, Selene. Take care.